so welcome by all. So I will call the meeting to order. And do we have any guests tonight? Will you please raise your hand? Any guests? Okay, so Jennifer Engel, whom I'll talk about in just a minute, is a guest tonight, and that's about it. Okay. And then we have at least one elected, and I know that's Barbara. Where's Barbara? There she is. And as I've said before, she's only going to be elected for a few more months, so she might have find something else that we can put her on the agenda for, right, Barbara? Okay. So this is not a public meeting, and please look for yourself in photos on our social media. That's kind of how it goes if you show up at one of our meetings. So now we are going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and I did see Walt. And Walt, if you will please lead us in the pledge. Okay. Thank you, Walt.
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so now we're going to do the consent calendar, but before we do that, I think you need a few details. And this is our treasurer's report from Ken. Ken, where are you? Who keeps the books very meticulously for all of us. And if we step out of line, he said, oh, no, I don't know if you should be spending that much money. So feel reassured. So currently, as of May 1, the balance was a little over 60,000. At the end of May, we were 54,500 about. And we had a few deposits, which included almost $4,000. And we had some large expenses for our campaigning, nearly $10,000. So given that, I would like a motion to adopt our consent calendar, please. Okay, so Barbara made the motion, and Louise made the second. So any objection to the consent calendar? Good, we're ready to go. Okay, for my report this evening, foremost and most importantly, I want to thank everybody in this room for the fabulous work that all of you did on the primary. Please give yourself a huge round of applause. It was just an amazing feat. Louise will go over all the details to show you all the work that you did and all the work that we still have to do. We're just getting going, right? We're halfway through. And this month, we have to have a special recognition for our Pride Month and special recognition for the Mission Viejo Pride event. Yes, exactly, that we were involved in, and several of you sitting in this room attended. It was on social media. It looked like it was a fabulous event over at Saddleback. And our own city council member whom we support, Cynthia Vasquez, was the lead on that and did all of the organizing, so we need to keep that in mind, and kudos to her, because it can be an uphill battle in Mission Viejo. Also wanted you to know that, well, you already know that we have the new Young Canyon Dems. They are part of us. They are like a committee. We're trying to draft in some new young'uns. And Brittany Gale has been very much a part of that and very much involved in bringing them together, getting events plans. So she is now on our executive board, and she will represent the Young Canyon Dems, their ideas, and kind of knowing each step of the way exactly what we are doing. Also, the Canyon Dems have contributed $500 to the Huntington Beach July 4 parade. And that's very important for the Dems to be recognized, especially, right, in Huntington Beach right now. So there'll be the parade and all the things that, the floats and all the things that go into making that. So now I'm going to take a moment of privilege here. There are two things that I just want to bring to your thoughts for you to think about, and it's on the agenda. One of them is about the billionaire's tax, and the other is Calvert versus Kim. So I'll start with the billionaire's tax. Raise your hand if you've been following it. Okay, excellent. That's who we are, right? It will be on the ballot. Like you, been reading all kinds of things. And then I also had an excellent opportunity last week to go up to Sacramento and hear they call them advocates now versus lobbyists because of all the stuff that goes with being, who went over all of these initiatives. So I'm not taking a position on this, but I am asking you to think very carefully about it, okay? The billionaire's tax is intended to fill the gap for health care because of the big bad bill. So a lot of people, and you might be sitting in this room right now being one of those people. And how many of you think that's a great idea? Okay. However, the billionaire's tax is a one-time tax on the billionaires. So state will get the money, they will be able to spend it, and when it's gone, it's gone. The healthcare doesn't stop. It's an ongoing program. So we need to be very careful. And I know people are saying, well, it's a foot in the door, etc. Well, just to remind us about the lottery. Remember when we all voted for the lottery and we're all excited about it? And now, anytime you mention we need to increase school funding, those a little bit on the outside, the first thing is, hey, we gave you that lottery money. Come on, billions, millions, zillions of dollars all over the place. For education, that equals 1% of their budget. It makes it very difficult to go back to the well. So it's going to be on the ballot in November. I'm sure the party will take a position, but I just want you to be thoughtful in how you proceed with this, whether you want one-time money or do you want ongoing money. We can always go back to the drawing board and get a well-written bill. Okay, so now Calvert versus Kim. We gave it our all, folks, and we knew going in that we had been sacrificed, and we were a little grumpy when we had to go out there and knock on doors for 50, knowing that we were going to be the ones on the short end of the stick. But we didn't. We were good soldiers, and we thought, well, you never know, knocking on these doors and talking to these people, we might actually be able to make some inroads. And you know what? I think we probably did, but it didn't pan out in the number of votes. So we are very disappointed, so you can only imagine how disappointed the candidates are, right? It is going to be Calvert versus Kim. I've actually had a few people come to me and say, do you think the Dems might actually vote for Kim? Because we don't want Calvert. I'm like, wait a minute. In your wildest dreams, I'm going to vote for a woman who is not for women's health care, reproductive health care, who has signed on to the big bag ugly bill, who has reduced lots of health care for other people, who will not meet with her constituents. Sure, she's pleasant, but what does that do for me as a constituent? Absolutely nothing. That's their fight to work out. If they don't want Calvert, then they need to figure that one out. We're not getting involved in that. So just a few notes on that one. So going to candidates, you guys did a good job in the election. Things are now set. We've got some great candidates like Dave Min and Mike Levin and Katrina Foley going on. And then now we're going to move to focus on our city councils and many of those different things. Now, Jennifer Engel, if you'll stand up one more time. She is here tonight. She is planning on running for the Moulton Miguel Water Board. And the reason she's here tonight is she would like to have somebody who also is interested in running. So if you have any inkling of running for a water board, after the meeting, would you please approach Jennifer and you can have a chat with her and get some more information about that? Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, great. Okay, so she'll leave her card if you don't actually get to meet with her. Now, for candidates coming up, August 18th, hopefully we're going to have Dave Min, September 15th, Catherine Blakespear, and then as we go on, we're going to have the other candidates that we will be interviewing through exec board, bringing to you, and you approving. So now we're on to Louise Adler, who's going to fill us in on all the work that has been done and what their future plans are. I know. Are you coming up here, or what do you do? Okay, okay, then I'll stay here and click for you.
I'm not so great on the stairs.
No, that's
No. Okay. If you are a member of the Field Team Planning Committee, would you please stand? We need to give these folks a real nice round of applause. Because they were the ones who organized this effort. Thank you very much. And if you worked on postcards, would you raise your hand? Look at that. Okay. And if you walked to houses, even if it was only a few like I did, please raise your hand. Look at that. Amazing. Okay. And you can see that we walked to over 23,000 households. Yeah. Wow. And there were people who were really outstanding. Julie Willard, stand as I call your name, Ann Owen, Becky Keene, Jacqueline Cook, Diane Dorman, Kathy Palmer, Sarah Burt, William Lenhartz, Renee Lenhartz, Kathy Udich, and Holly Manta. Woo! These are people who did over 500 doors. Amazing. Okay, well, I gotta switch my thing here. Kind of hard without the podium. Maybe I should come up there.
Well, what about right here? It's on the screen.
Yeah, I know, I'm just,
Okay.
see what I'm doing here. Okay. In addition to that effort, we signed on with the state Democratic Party to put poll watchers at our voting locations. So if you were one of those people, would you please stand if you were at one of those locations? Thank you so much. We were connected with a statewide effort, which I think will become even more important next fall. And Barbara Casillo, where are you, Barbara? Barbara organized all that for us. Okay. Barbara also helped to organize the Pride event, our booth at the Pride event. She said that we registered 3 people, signed up 38 people to join our newsletters, and passed out lots of flyers. So, thank you, Barbara. Okay, and Barbara is going to be working on the big Mission Viejo Street Fair. I'll talk about that in a moment. We're also continuing to work on postcards, so those of you who have postcards out, get them in, bring them over to the side when they're done. And if you want to pick up a postcard kit, they're available on the side. And we're also going to start working on a lot more meetups. So if you would be interested in having candidates come to your house to meet your neighbors, we have Michelle and Dan, thank you. You know, you get to over 80, you just block out. Anyway, and they'll be ready to help you get it set up. So get in touch with them. Okay, Barbara is going to be coordinating our booth at the Mission Viejo Street Fair, and she has flyers, and I have flyers too, with her contact information. I'll get it in a minute. Contact information. So if you want to help at the booth, please see Barbara. It's a lot of fun. It really is. You get to meet other people in the club. You're standing there, you're talking to voters, you're passing out stuff. It's really very nice. And of course, there are the young MAGA men who take off their shirts and walk by, and oh, that really is, I actually enjoy that, you know? I mean, if they want to try for Speedos, I'm okay with that too. You know, get old, you get desperate. Anyway, it's going to be a fun day. Okay, y'all, thank you.
Got it? Okay, just a couple things about our membership. We continue to grow. We got 19 new members last month. We're up to 547. However, we're still in a deficit from last year. And if we could get those folks back, we'll be $10,000 richer, which means more for our candidates, especially our local people will really appreciate that. All right, so for next month, we're doing Families Forward. Now, if you look at the agenda, there is a link there. And if you go to that, you just type that in as the address, oops, it all pops up. And Family Forwards has all of their things on Amazon, and you just click, 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 goes into your basket, and it automatically goes to Families Forward. If you don't want to do it that way, like always, just bring it to our next meeting. Of course, the 1-inch notebooks, the backpacks that will fit a laptop, or these sturdy ones, all of the good things. Just talk to your grandkids and kids and say, what are you guys supposed to put in those things, backpack, and we'll fill them up. Okay, so now just a reminder about the Young Dems. You see that they have a QR code, which makes me laugh, right, Barbara? It's fitting that a Young Dem would have that on there. We went to but that's where we are. So we went to a conference and it listed all of the kind of pet peeves and strengths of the different generations. And one of the pet peeves of our generations supposedly is these QR codes. We don't like them, supposedly. But I digress. So we go back to, they will be having their Mission Ready Brewing on June 25th. And then also they will be joining all of us on July 11th for a big parade that's coming up. And Melora is going to tell you all about that. There are our community newsletter folks, and now up for fundraising. No, we don't have, no, because they're doing it right now. Yep, we're on the agenda.
Hello, Canyon Dems and friends. How you doing? I'm wearing my official Target Pride dress. I got it a couple of years ago, and I wear it every time we have a Pride event. So that's what it is. Okay. I want to thank all of our sustaining members. We have 93 of them now. And so far this year, they've given a total of $7,200, which is fabulous. It's more money we can spend on getting our candidates elected. We also, you remember we had our special event for them, and not everybody was able to be there, but we did give out party favors. They are our I Sustain Democracy buttons. If you are a sustaining member and you didn't come to the party and you'd like one, we have a couple left, so just stop by our little merch table on your way out, and we will try and get you one. Then, what else is next? Oh, the ice cream social's next. We do have a date. It is September 26th from 4 to 6 p.m.
Oh.
Mark your calendars now. It'll be right here at the Murray Center, usually out on the patio is where we'll hold it. And you don't want to miss it because we're going to invite all the candidates that are going to be up for election. And hopefully a lot of them will come and you'll be able to just wander around and talk to them just like they were your friends, because they should be. And then tonight's drawing is Pride on the Beach. And I think you've seen it. It's got so much cool stuff in it. I'm going to pick a number. Okay. 2873969. 28735,969 are the last three digits. Anyone? Bueller?
They left already?
Going once, going twice? Okay, try again.
969.
Yes, 969. Do you have it?
Am I reading this right?
You are. You're the lucky winner. Yay! Don't throw away your tickets yet. We have 3 surprise bonus gifts.
Oh.
Which one first?
Cat mug, and it
Oh.
says, "Is he dead yet?"
And funny how we automatically know who they're talking about. The ice cream social is September 26th. Okay, now, 4 to 6. Okay, our next winner for the cat mug set is 28735,898. 898. Anybody? 898. No,
Is anybody close?
we'll pick another one. This one is the one that I picked out before. The numbers are very small.
Okay, going once, 2, 3 times. Okay.
Okay. It's 5196695. In a little teeny tiny. There we go. There we go. Okay. And now we have the donkey smartass mints, because, you know, sugar and fascism free. All right. And that will be, ooh, that one jumped right out of the box. So it really wants to win. 5196817. 681. Oh, there you go. No, Melora, no, Melora, wait. Not that one. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
And our last is
First Amendment.
First Amendments.
Oh, cool.
Free speech, minty fresh.
All right. 287535954. Not, there we go. Yay! Thank you, one and all. And keep making money for Canyon Dens.
Excellent.
Is it here?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Oh, yes, I forgot to write, sorry. Our merchandise maven here, Patty, appears at every event that we are in, and she brings all of her stuff with the help of her assistant. And she went to the Pride event and raised $550.
And speaking of merch, last meeting, somebody bought this unpaid protester t-shirt sitting up here in the front row and left it. So if that person's here tonight, it's right there for you. And somebody left a water bottle too with a lavender top. Okay, Melora, you can't go away. You're up next. Okay, so while Melora is walking up, I have to thank Laura for stepping forward to organize what's gonna be, like any event. It's gonna have lots of ins and outs and things like that. So Laura, if you can fill us in on the, as you can see on the screen here, America 250 Mission Viejo Parade. Are you ready for a parade? How many of you like a parade? Yes, of course, we all do.
I knew I could get a parade. Thank you, guys. Stay here with me because we need a grand exit too. Thank you, guys. Okay, did you think that I was going to be in charge, helping Janet with the parade, and you weren't, and you were not going to get a ridiculous presentation? Of course you were. Okay, it's the week after the 4th of July. It's the 11th. It's a Mission Viejo. And first I'm going to give you 5 reasons that we should all be in the Mission Viejo parade on July 11th. Number 1, it's great exposure for our club. Number 2, we'll be celebrating our formally and will be soon again Great Nation. Number 3, vitamin D helps you sleep. Number 4, you're getting in your daily steps. And the number 5, it's really the number 1 main reason, the Republicans will be there, so we have to turn out, everybody. Right? Right. Okay. Okay, so here's some information. So it'll be coming out in the next newsletter, we think, as soon as Cindy gets back from vacation. So you can sign up on the newsletter, and all this information will be there. But really briefly, it's Saturday the 11th. We need check-in at 8 o'clock, and the parade steps off at 9 o'clock, which means, you know, however far back we'll be, maybe 9:20, 9:30, I don't know. But so we have to be there at 8 o'clock, and the earlier the better, because it won't be as hot. It's 1.1 miles. That's an easy peasy walk. We'll also have a vehicle in the parade for people that have a little bit of difficulty. So there'll be information on the website so you can sign up, and we'll figure that out. We can only have 1 vehicle, and so we'll figure out who can ride. Let's see. We want you to wear, if you have a Canyon Dems t-shirt, that would be great. If you don't, we only have 1 more. We have 1 more. Where's Patty? We have 1 more large women's for sale if you want that. We don't have time to get any other ones. So if you don't have a t-shirt, that's fine. We just want you to wear a white or blue or white and blue shirt. That's good. No, I'm getting there. It's on my list. So we don't want you to wear, they don't want us to, and which is fine, make any political statements. So no t-shirts. T-shirts that say MAGA sucks, bad. T-shirts that say yay Canyon Dems, that's good, okay? So we can't have anything political. Like nothing like no vote for JJ, no vote for Amy, none of that stuff. Nothing political. Patriotic, not political. Thank you, Kat. Okay, so we will also have some small American flags. We can give everybody one to wave. The Democrat or the Republicans seem to think that they own it. It's our flag, and we're going to display it proudly. Let's see. Please, we want you to, when this information comes out, we want you to talk to your friends, your neighbors. They don't have to be a club member if they'd like to join us. Grandkids or kids are welcome and encouraged, okay? So some of the things that that they won't let us do, sadly, they will not let us have any pets. This is bubbles. You cannot have bubbles. I have to come up with some reason to use my bubble machine. No bubbles, no handouts. So you're going to sign up in the newsletter, and there's going to be a waiver attached to that. And so you need to sign that and send it in. So that should be pretty easy. I'm going to go to a meeting on Thursday, and I'll find out some more information. One of the things I've asked is, can we have some paper waivers if somebody forgets or has difficulty? They're going to get back with me. But if you want to be in it and somehow you cannot figure out how to download the waiver or something, just sign up and we'll figure that out, okay? So, got a question back here. Where, I don't know, where? Oh, okay. That information, thanks, Kathy. That information will all be put in the newsletter once we get Cindy back from vacation. We're dead in the water without her. So, anyone else have any questions? This is a mile, 1.1 mile. It should be really fun. I really hope y'all do it. We do need to have a good turnout, but I do think it's a fun time for us all to spend some time together. So, get your grandkids, get your neighbors, got some friends, come and join us. We'd really appreciate it. So we will, Louise has got a question. Sure, strollers is good. No, they didn't say no strollers. Just no. Okay, no handouts. Does anyone have any more questions? Oh, wait.
And it ends at the Murray Center,
okay.
and they'll have all kinds of games and foods. You know how they do that, a little festival thing, so it ends with a lot more fun too.
Oh, okay, good. We also have a correction, and this is probably my mistake. It was, the ice cream social is 2 to 4, right, Nancy? I'm gonna give a shout out to Nancy. She's our coordinator with the Murray Center, so she calls and gets and arranges for us to do all that. We appreciate her very much, so. Okay, uh-oh, I don't know what this is, but I took it off, so. Okay, all right, wait. We're gonna go back. We're gonna have a, we need break music to go back. Ready? Thank you, guys. Sign up.
Is up here? Oh, okay. No, I didn't get it. Okay, I'm Ann Owens, and I am here to tell you about the speakers. Oh. It is green. It is green, but you can't hear me.
Here, use this one.
It is green. Ooh, you can hear me. All right, I am Ann Owens. I'm here to tell you about the speakers. We actually have speakers lined up through November, so we're all set to go for the whole year. Next month, we're having Dr. Charisse Hubren, who is this month in Stockholm, Sweden, getting the equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Criminology. And she has been doing all kinds of research, proving, interestingly enough, that immigration does not cause crime to rise. And they're rewarding her for that. So she has some interesting things to share with us. In August, we're having Professor Rob Steiner from Chapman and Professor Keith Boyan from Fullerton that are going to do an analysis of the primary. And Keith told me today, and anything else that happens between now and August, they'd be glad to talk about too. In September, we have Professor Jody Balma from Fullerton, who is also going to be speaking. So we're really pretty well set. For tonight, after our speaker gets done, we're going to have a Q&A. If you would be interested in asking a question, I would like you to line up single file on the wall over here next to the outside, and just be prepared, please, with a question, not a comment. I'm sure a lot of you have things to comment about housing and how it's affecting your kids and grandkids, etc., but we would just like to have questions at this point. Okay, so the housing shortage is the #1 economic issue, not only in California, but in the entire United States. As many of you know or may not know, my second retirement job has been with nonprofits dedicated to affordable housing issues. The first time I heard Elizabeth Hansberg speak was at an OLE class in the office by the Irvine train station many years ago. I still remember sitting in my seat after her presentation, overcome with her passion for housing. I thought, who is this woman? Well, Elizabeth is an urban planner and policy advocate who first became involved with YIMBY. And in 2017, that evolved into People for Housing, and as executive director, she has led the grassroots effort to build public support for new affordable and attainable housing opportunities. She believes that everyone should be able to find a safe, stable, and affordable home in Orange County. I became involved with Elizabeth through my activity with Welcoming Neighbors Home and Homes for All. She has so impressed me with her ability to reach out to all members of the community, as well as the building world, from construction bigwigs, lawyers, social justice advocates, to minority members in her community, to try and find a solution to this crisis in creative and affordable ways. Yesterday, there was actually an article in the LAist, I guess that's how you pronounce it. Okay, all right. That is talking about the fact that there is no affordable housing, and it quotes the six-figure salary that you earn to qualify for being a low-income earner. We're going to be having a link to this article that our media will be putting out so you can read it yourself. So tonight, Elizabeth is here to share her expertise and knowledge and help us learn how to be an active participant in this most worthy issue. I am pleased to introduce my friend, Elizabeth Hansberg.
She needs that. Yeah, I am. I'm taking them back there. Yeah, so you're right.
Hi, everybody. Not today, they're all visited in front of all of you. A couple quick questions. How many of you are homeowners? Raise your hand. All right. How many of you have children within between 28 and 37? All right. How many of those children are homeowners? Way less, right? I just shared with Ann, there's a talk song that Ann put together, and it's called I Wasted Time in My Mother's Room. I should have been buying property when I was a fetus. But that's really what is facing. Is there a way to turn this down? It is? Okay. Oh, sorry. So we laugh, but that's really what is facing our community members under 40, whether they're our children or our neighbors or the medical assistant or the nurse or the teacher. And we're really in a desperate situation to try to find housing that is affordable for our younger generations. Okay, so this is me. So I started this organization to advocate for more housing, particularly for young people, low-income residents, people who serve our communities and are not able to pay the $1.25 billion median house price for Orange County. So I'm going to come at this from the perspective that you all want to be advocates, that you want to welcome new housing into your community. That may or may not be true. If you're following what's going on in Newport Beach, there is currently a ballot measure being circulated. Really awful. Okay. What do I do? Yes. No, that's okay. I just. Yeah, of course. Okay. Is that better? Okay. All right. We're fine enough to hear that. Okay, so I'm going to come at this from the perspective that you want to be advocates and make room for younger people and people who earn less money than the amount of money that you need to buy a $1.25 million house in Orange County. About that article that Ann just talked about. So I got interviewed for that article, which is why I know about it. And it is in reference to the fact that HCD, which is the State Department of Housing and Community Development, just released the 2026-27 income limits for people needing affordable housing. And for a one-person household, a solo individual, you are now eligible for affordable housing, meaning subsidized housing, if you earn $104,000 a year. Right, yep. Pick your jaws up off the floor. Now, let's talk about what is the median income for a one-person household in Orange County. It's $93,000. How the hell do we subsidize housing for people earning more than the median? That's what we're doing. The state of California is saying to all of the affordable developers, to all of the government agencies, to all of the nonprofits, if you have a person who earns $104,000, they're eligible for your low-income housing. On what planet? When the median is 93. The fact that we refuse to build more housing, that we refuse to make room for more homes to house our neighbors, that is what is driving that total craziness of you're eligible for affordable housing if you make more than the median, right? It's because the state looks at current housing costs and like so for Orange County, it's taken together, right? The north and the south of the county is all taken together. And so even though the median, right, is 93,000 and they're supposed to do 80% of the median is eligible for affordable housing, but they don't. They kick it up over the median to 104 because of how impacted it is. So I want you to think about that, right? Like we are forcing people into poverty by virtue of the fact that we refuse to build more housing. So that's the article that she talked about. Okay, so what do? So there's a movement, it's called Yes in My Backyard, and it was coined by some radical activists up in San Francisco, of which I am not. I'm about 10 to 15 years older than they are. But I really liked the message, which was to make room for our neighbors. And so our mission is to advocate for more home building and to foster innovations to improve access to housing in Orange County, to end the shortage, reduce housing costs, and make room for current and future residents. So what do? We do a lot of advocacy. How many of you live in Mission Viejo? All right, how many of you were at the meeting in February about the addition of more apartments on the existing apartment, right? Okay, I was there too. I was there to say to the city council, you need to follow through. You need to build this over the objections of everybody who was whining and complaining about their view and their traffic, right? So I was the person saying, you need to make good on your promise when you told HCD, City of Mission Viejo, that this was a site where you would consider more housing. So just so you know what side of this I stand on, we do that and we organize other people to show up with us to make room in their cities where they live and hopefully where they vote. We do a lot of community building, right? Why are we in this, right? Nobody wants to feel like they're alone in it, alone in the advocacy. So we try to do quarterly or monthly meetups to build relationships among advocates. And then we also play, we're not a service organization, so we don't have clients or social workers, but we partner with a lot of organizations that do, because there's a lot of wonderful nonprofits in Orange County. Some of them are housing organizations. They don't necessarily need our expertise, but we have a lot of organizations that, like, they'll serve a specific ethnic group, right? Like they'll serve Vietnamese community or the Latino community, or they'll serve a specific neighborhood. And we often partner with them to sort of advise them and provide technical assistance on housing, because those community groups have the trust of their community. When residents that are part of a community, particularly if there's a language barrier, when they have a housing crisis, when they get served with, a 3-day notice to pay or quit, or some other, change to their lease, that's who they go to. They go to those trusted CBO partners. And so I filled a lot of phone calls from folks that are, experts in their community, in the community that trusts them and that they have the language and the cultural connections to, but they're not experts in housing. So we serve as a resource for them as well. Okay, All right, so I was asked to talk about housing elements. This has been talked about a lot over the last probably 6 years. We are in the 6th year of an 8-year cycle. What was different about this last cycle, which was the 6th cycle, was that the numbers were way bigger than they had ever been before. And a lot of cities and elected officials had their hair on fire because in the past, all of the new housing development was pushed out to the Inland Empire. It wasn't expected that Orange County or LA County would make room. It was expected that Yoruba and places long past Riverside and long down, you know, whatever freeway goes to Temecula, was that the 15?
Yeah.
Yeah, that those would be the communities where these homes would go. Well, the tide shifted and a lot of those units were passed back over to Orange County and LA County because that's where the jobs were, right? The jobs that are in like Yoruba Valley are like working at the grocery store, you know, retail, neighborhood serving, but they're not jobs that really allow you to like get access to like 6-figure jobs that like can sustain a family. And so that was where that tide change came. But a lot of cities in Orange County were really caught by surprise. They weren't expecting that. First of all, the numbers were bigger, and then the percentage of numbers that was pushed back into urban coastal California, including Orange County, was also bigger. So what is a housing element? So a housing element is required by every California jurisdiction, cities and counties. The county has to plan for the unincorporated area of its county. And it's part of the general plan. So in urban planning, every city has a general plan. They're typically updated every 20 years, but the housing element by California state law has to be updated every 8 years. So your city planning department, they may not be talking about it out loud to you, but they've started talking to each other about the 7th cycle. They're starting to get ready for that because it takes a while to make your plan. And so in it, in that process, cities get a RHNA number. And that RHNA number comes from the state to what's called the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO. And the MPO for Orange County is called SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments. And it serves all of the counties adjacent to Orange County, except for San Diego, because San Diego is its own county. It also includes Imperial County, which I've never quite understood why. Seems to me like Imperial should go with San Diego, but whatever. And the state gives SCAG a number, and then SCAG's job is to divvy that number up among the cities within its jurisdiction. So there's 6 counties in the SCAG region, 191 municipalities, and they doled those numbers out. And I think for my city, I'm a resident in the city of Fullerton, my city's number was over 13,000. Yeah, and half of that was to be below market rate or low income housing. So just as a reference point. So again, some cities make their plans quietly behind closed doors and then unveil them to the public for comment. Other cities convene working groups and they involve residents right from the beginning. A lot of that is dictated by who's on your council, how well do they understand the process, who's your development director, who's your city manager. Every city kind of has its own personality, and those personalities can shift as leadership changes. So if you're interested in this process, I would start paying attention to your newsletters. If you're really interested, you can email your development director, you can email your city manager. Most cities maintain an interest list of people who want to be notified of new meetings, or if the item is going to be discussed on the agenda. So there are opportunities to get involved. And in an ideal world, this is when you want to identify where your city is willing to make room. And the reason it matters is because once your city identifies those, it's going to get a number, whatever it is, like let's say it's 5,000. It has to, the city together with the residents, and then the city council has to approve it. They have to identify land that they can rezone, or if they already have the land zoned that way, then they can just leave it as it is. But they have to identify, where can we accommodate these 5,000 units, right? And it doesn't dictate it has to be single family homes or condos or for sale or for rent, right? It just talks about housing in terms of units. But you are required to zone at a high enough density that apartments can be built. And the reason is because below market rate affordable housing is hardly ever just a single family home, right? We just don't have the land for it. It's not efficient. It costs too much. On that same footprint of land, we can house, 25 families or 40 families, whereas, if we built a single family home, maybe we would only be able to house 8 families or 8 households. So sites for income at all levels, very low, low, moderate, and above moderate. Cities have to take a look at their own policies. What policies does the city have that makes it hard to build housing, and particularly affordable housing? So here's an example. If your city has a minimum lot size of 1 acre, it's really hard to build affordable housing. That means 1 unit per acre, right? And there are parts of Yorba Linda and cities that have like a horse property, like where that's the minimum zone. You can have it some places, you just can't have it all the places. So that's an example. Another thing that makes it really hard to build affordable housing, city policies, are these impact fees, right? Because of Prop 13, cities mostly get their revenue from sales tax, but the other place they get their revenue is when a builder comes to their town and says, hey, I want to build, whatever. They have to pay school fees, right? Because they're gonna potentially have the kids in the schools. They usually have to pay park fees, right? But the question is, should they have to pay a disproportionate amount of park fee compared to the people who already live there, who are already using the park? Because if you have like 50,000 residents in your city, and you're building an apartment building of 250 units, the critical mass of people using your parks already are here. And they're not paying much because of Prop 13. And so developers get saddled with these costs, right? These really high impact fees, park fees, traffic fees, right? And we are effectively loading the cost of maintaining the current infrastructure onto the new housing. So we're forcing the next home buyer to pay a higher amount of his, quote, fair share than if you bought your house in the 90s or the early 2000s. So a little story from my neck of the woods. I live in a almost 1,400 square foot house on a 6,000 square foot lot on a fee simple, my house is 4 walls and a roof. It's nothing to write home about. And it's worth just shy of $1 million. I bought it for 400, right? In 2009? Yeah. So the guy that lives across, so my property taxes are like just around $6,000. I just paid him, so I think it's around $6,000. The guy that lives across the street from me inherited his home from his grandparents, who were the first owners. My house was built in 1962. His grandpa was the first homeowner of that house in 1962. He was a returning Korean War vet. And he raised a family as a, get this, door-to-door fireplace screen salesman. That was his job. You can't even have a fireplace in California anymore. And we do not have door-to-door salesmen. We have Amazon, right? How out of date and out of touch is the policy that allows that family to pay less than $900 a year in property taxes, right? So I'm paying $6,000. The family next to mine is paying $11,000 because they bought their house for $1 million. And it was nicer than mine because it had a brand new kitchen and a brand new bathroom. And mine is not so brand new. But you get the point. And the people that live next door to me are also 15 years younger than me. So you get the point, right? I'm paying more than the family across the street where that house has been in the family for 3 generations. But the guy next to me and his young wife are paying more than me. So we are front loading the cost of infrastructure, of maintaining our current way of life, basically, onto the next generation. Prop 13 is here, it's not gonna change, but when I ask you to make room, I want you to remember that those people that are coming after you are paying more than their fair share. So make room. Okay. We talked about housing elements. So if a city fails to adopt a compliant housing element, I'm sure you guys have heard about Newport Beach. That is like the extreme. But they can lose local control, builder's remedy. Right now in my city tonight, God help my city, We have denied a builder's remedy project twice, and I have a letter in my email from 3 law enforcement advocacy organizations threatening to sue them to high heaven if they don't change their mind. Tonight is the night. So my city was out of compliance for enough time that we were served with 3 builder's remedy projects. One of them decided to move forward, the other 2 went away by the developer's choice. So, but it's a thing, it really happens. Your city, if you apply, I mean, all cities apply for grants from the state. If you don't have a compliant housing element, you're not eligible for state funding. So just not even 2 months ago, I was in Costa Mesa, and I was there to ask the city of Costa Mesa to please front some more money. They'd already approved this project, this affordable housing senior project, on the parking lot of their senior center. Where better to put an affordable housing for seniors right next to the senior center. And the assumption was that the city would be eligible for state funding. Well, they weren't, because they didn't have a compliant housing element. Their housing element had fallen out of compliance, and so they weren't eligible for that funding. So we went to their council meeting and asked them to please front the money. Front the money so the project can move forward, because the project's already been approved, right? And we have people who need affordable housing. That got written up in the Daily Pilot, the LA Times Daily Pilot, and my public comment got quoted in that article. So if you're interested, I can share. Oh, what happened? Somebody help me. Oh, all right, look at that. Okay, so again, that's kind of like some of the consequences was the city didn't get the funding because they weren't eligible. So the city agreed to front the money, and when they get in compliance, and hopefully we get the tax credits, we'll reimburse the city. But those are 2 examples from the real world. Okay, how do housing elements shape what gets built and where? So the housing element becomes the basis for the zoning. So in the housing element, there will be a map, and on that map, there will be sites. And those sites will correspond to a list of properties in a table. And that table is called the housing element sites inventory. And on that, basically looks like an Excel spreadsheet, they're gonna identify the address, the parcel number. They're also gonna identify what it's currently zoned for, what in their new vision it would be zoned for, and something called the yield. How many units of housing do we think we can get on that property, and what percentage of them will be affordable? So, come again? Oh, they're not talking to me. So let's take a page out of the city of Laguna Beach. Or not Laguna Beach, sorry, Laguna Hills. Laguna Hills, anybody live in Laguna Hills? All right. Your city went through the process of doing its housing element. It has a compliant housing element, and it upzoned, right? That's the word for making more density permissible. You say upzoned. They upzoned a whole bunch of sites in their inventory at the level that is required. It's called the Mullen density. And for Orange County, that is 30 dwelling units to the acre, 30 homes to an acre. And they didn't put any requirement for affordability. So there was no inclusionary ordinance. There was no kind of, housing incentive ordinance that applied to specific parcels. And every single parcel that they rezoned, a developer came forward with a great project, right? It's housing, so I'm gonna support it. With no requirement for affordability. They did the minimum. They did, like 5% to get density bonus because it comes with waivers and concessions, which is a whole other thing. But the point is that if the city was truly committed to making sure, they should have done it whether they were committed or not, just to cover their own ass, right? They had to have affordable housing. They have to produce that. So it would have been a wiser choice, even if they don't want to apply it citywide, which I can understand why they wouldn't, right? People of a more conservative bent don't want to see there be this requirement citywide. Okay, there's reasons not to do it. But at least on your housing inventory sites, put something, right? So that you as a city don't get, lots of new housing without the benefit of some affordability coming with it. Because your city still has to produce it. So now the city of Laguna Hills has to go back to the drawing board because they've chewed through, right? They've chewed through their capacity right? They didn't get the level of affordability that they said. I mean, I think if I remember correctly, they said they were gonna get like 400 units of affordable housing. And they got like, what, 20? I mean, it was paltry, right? But it was legal, right? So there's the question of, is it legal? Is it ethical, right? I mean, we can debate the morality of this all day long, but at the end of the day, the developer was well within his rights to do what he did. And that's what they're gonna do. And I have a lot of friends that are developers, and what they want is clear rules. They want you to tell them from jump, tell me what you need to see here, right? Don't tell me after the fact. Don't let me do my pro forma and make my plans and spend my millions of dollars for my renderings, and then tell me that you want affordable housing. That's what happened in Aliso Viejo, which is part of why the project that was supposed to be near the Trader Joe's, why it fell apart. Because the council couldn't make up its damn mind, right? They wanted money, 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 because they were having fiscal issues. And then 2 city managers later, God rest her soul, they decided that they wanted affordability, and the deal fell apart. Because they weren't clear from the beginning what they wanted from the developer. So, another example of Aliso Viejo. How many people live in Aliso? Any Aliso residents? There we go. They love home ownership, and they're doing a lot of really great townhomes, and I'm super enthusiastic, and I've gone to their council meetings and I've told them, hey, thank you so much for being willing to change your land use plan to accommodate what's truly needed. Because there was a lot of sort of like office light industrial, and there's this one cul-de-sac that they're like completely remaking it and allowing it to go residential, which is a reflection of the need, right? Work from home, light industrial office space, not so needed. So City of Aliso, what are they doing right? They're being flexible. They're responding to the current market conditions, which is like, we need housing a lot more than we need light industrial office space. So that's on the good side. What's on the not great side is that there's very little new rental housing, right? Everything is home ownership, which is great. And I'm a huge fan of home ownership. I'm speaking at a conference on Thursday at Chapman University, all about home ownership. So this isn't I'm not bashing, I want young people to be able to buy a home to get their foot on the ladder of the rung of home ownership, because it is the cornerstone of the American dream, hands down. At the same time, young married couples don't want to be living with their parents when they're starting their new marriage. They want to live on their own for a couple of years, save up to put money down on a home. So I think Aliso Viejo needs to add some rental housing. Okay, so zoning defines what can be built. If the city's housing element designates a site for development, it's included in the sites inventory. We talked about that. And then the zoning gets updated from the old, if they need to update the zoning from the old, whatever it was. So like in the example of Aliso Viejo, it's going from light industrial office to residential. By right approval. So a lot of the new state housing laws that have come out, and you've probably heard it if you've gone to the council meeting, you'll hear your city manager or your community development director say, our hands are tied. Our hands are tied, our hands are tied. Yeah, Sacramento tied up their hands, which I'm grateful for. And they basically say that some things get by right approval. So City of, any Laguna Beach folks here tonight? City of Laguna Beach, on the 23rd, we'll be hearing, the question is, should the City of Laguna Beach give funding to this project? Because 2 weeks ago, the City of Laguna Beach's Planning Commission approved the few things that they could still approve, because a new by right law called SB 4, which allows for affordable housing, truly affordable housing, below market rate subsidized housing for low-income residents, to be built on church property or sort of any faith community, right? So like, doesn't matter what the religion is, or a nonprofit college. So that's an example of by right approval. When the Planning Commission met, they weren't answering the question, can this project be built? They were answering the question, does this landscaping work with the adjacent properties? But the project itself had a right to go forward. So that's an example of by right approval. I talked a little bit about density bonus. So the idea here is that for projects that are by right, they often are coming in with low-income housing tax credits, which are basically government subsidies. But density bonus units are not subsidized, not by the government. They're effectively subsidized by the current
people paying market rate. And so the idea is, okay, developer, if you're willing to give us some affordable units, right, that you're gonna rent at below market rate, we're gonna let you add to the density of the project more market rate units to subsidize the below market rate units, right? I'm not a math geek, but you kind of get the idea, right? Like we're giving you some more market rate units to sort of subsidize what you're missing out on because you weren't able to rent the full project, you agreed not to rent the full project, every unit at market rate. So the government loves these, or the state government loves these because it doesn't require tax dollars, right? We have really limited tax dollars. The LIHTC, right, low income housing tax credit, they're really limited. Projects have to compete for them. There's a whole battery of things that make some projects more competitive than others. And there have been projects where it's taken 3 years because there's 2 rounds of tax credits every year, 4% and 9%. And if you get some but not all, then you have to apply the next year. So we might approve a project, but it might not move forward if it can't get those tax credits. Whereas with density bonus, we get fewer units, right? We're not building a 45 unit affordable housing complex like we might, in Lake Forest, they built Mountain View. They're building another one. Lake Forest has been great about going out for affordable housing. Their leadership, for whatever reason, has been really great, really welcoming for affordable housing. But it gets done faster because that market rate project moves forward, and then with it comes those, usually it's around 10%. So if I have a 100-unit apartment building, 10 of those units will be affordable. Cities that have an inclusionary policy, which the city of Mission Viejo does, so does the city of Buena Park, often that will trigger, right, the city has its own local ordinance, local law that says, okay, we want you to give 10% to affordable housing. And a lot of times that will be the trigger that will say, okay, well, if you're gonna give me, the developer says, if that's the requirement, I'm gonna go ahead and use density bonus because then I get ask for a lot of concessions that make my project easier to build. And that's often in the city of Yorba Linda, where people's hair has caught on fire. Because the city of Yorba Linda, they did an extensive, remember how I was talking about how some cities, do their plan and then kind of unveil it and ask for comments? Well, city of Yorba Linda convened a steering committee of that was more than 15 people. And they planned and then, replanned. They did 2 versions of their housing element. They had to get it to the voters. And at the end of the day, it didn't need much. And the reason was because of density bonus. And so you should have been there on the day that this townhome development was coming up, and people's hair was on fire. Because the city, in my opinion, this is my opinion, had not done a good job of explaining that for all their, process, at the end of the day, state density bonus law trumps your, the density that you said, basically. Okay, and builder's remedy is, everyone's afraid of this because it basically, at its most liberal interpretation, is developer can build anything, anywhere he wants, and regardless of the zoning. So with state density bonus, he can't come in and say, okay, I'm gonna build housing on top of your supermarket, right? It has to be zoned for residential. Well, with builder's remedy, if he can get control of the land, he can tear down your supermarket and build his apartment building. They're not gonna do that, but that's just kind of an example. Okay, so we talked about this a little bit. These are looking at the new numbers. So housing costs versus wages. I have heard it said that when my mom, who is 80, was buying a home, the ratio of home price to wages was 1 to 3. And I've heard it said now that it's 1 to 10. So why the gap matters, right? So you get the point from these numbers. I'm tired, so I'm not going to read them. Why the gap matters. Housing affordability is defined by the federal government as spending no more than 30% of your income on housing costs. Families spending more than 30% are called cost burdened. Families spending
50% or more are called severely cost burdened. The number of renters in Orange County that are rent burdened is 50%. And the number, does anybody want to talk about what the percentage of severely rent burdened is? What do you think? Maybe like 10% or 20%? No, 57%. Or sorry, that's backwards. 57% of the people are rent burdened and 50% of them are severely rent burdened. So it's not just, like I was thinking it would be, you know, oh, a lot of people, maybe they're paying 33 or 40%, but no, everybody is paying 50% or more. There's no like a little bit of rent burden. There's like a whole lot of rent burden, right? You just have stage 4 rent burden, right? There's no like stage 1, 2, or 3. And so I think like, you know, realistically you need 2 to 3 full-time jobs, 40 hours a week at the standard minimum wage to rent an apartment. Which, I mean, people do it, or they live in doubled up conditions, or they live, you know, 3 families to a home, one in, you know, each of the bedrooms and someone in the living room, right? Nobody wants to live like that. You talk about, you know, access to a kitchen to cook for your family. Families are like deciding whose night it is to cook, and the other families are eating out or getting fast food, right? It's no way to raise your kids. But that's what we're asking people to do. We're asking them to have longer commutes, overcrowded housing. Maybe they just don't eat dinner that night. Or they're moving out of Orange County completely, right? When we talk about very low income people, people that are really living on the edge, they're not the people that are leaving because they can't afford to leave. They can just afford to stay in whatever difficult situation they're living in, whether it's, you know, an apartment that is not, you know, properly ventilated or has, you know, bugs, or they're living in severely overcrowded conditions. The people that are leaving are the people who have an earning potential and whose lives and quality of life will be made better by lower housing costs. Teachers, nurses, right? People who have a skill, right? Mental health professionals, right? So we are gonna suffer for not having, like I was just at a restaurant and I heard someone say that like it's taking them months to get their radiology back because there's a shortage of radiologists, right? Which is, you know, that's a doctor, right? So people who make our communities go, basically, are the ones that are gonna leave because they can earn wages in Texas or Utah or Tennessee, right? How many people know somebody that's moved to Texas? But Tennessee is like the new place to go, right? Yeah, I've got my eyes set on Nebraska. Nobody go to Nebraska. Okay. All right, so let's talk about what is low income. So these are the new numbers, right? So we talked about how for a 1-person household, the median is $93,000, and to qualify for affordable housing, to basically get housing welfare, you need to make 104, which is significantly more than 93, right? Like $11,000 more. This is calculated in terms of a family of 4. I don't know why, but whenever we talk about housing in public policy circles, we always talk about it in terms of a 4-person household. Just how we talk about it. So as you can see, you are a very low income family at $93,000. You are a low income family at damn near $150,000, which is, again, kind of wild when the median for a family of 4 for 2026 is $136,000. So here again, low income, 80% and under, are eligible for subsidies. The median for a family of 4 is 136, but the threshold cutoff is 148, which is $12,000 more than the 136. So again, I maintain, and this is what's in this article, that our lack of willingness to make room for new housing development is forcing people to be poor. We are effectively making them poor. Not because we're taking away their money or we're overtaxing them, but because we're not willing to make room for the homes that clearly we have a need for. So if you find yourself thinking, God, I really wish they wouldn't build that here, You can have your thoughts, but I would ask you to keep them to yourself. Because the reality is that we need those homes, because y'all are gonna age in place. Y'all aren't going anywhere, right? That's what they say. The senior citizens nowadays, they are willing to do whatever it takes to stay in their homes. They're your homes. Stay in your home. Enjoy your home. You worked hard for your home. Don't deny the next generation the opportunity to get theirs. That's my ask. Okay, so let's talk, the one last thing I want to tell you is that for moderate income, for 81 to 120 AMI, right, which is the 148 to the 166, there are no subsidies for those folks, right? There's no help for them. Maybe there's a down payment assistance program, but cities don't even have those anymore. The only city that really does down payment assistance anymore is City of Santa Ana. So if you have a young person in your family, a young adult, married, not married, they're probably earning, if they have a college degree and like 5 years of experience under their belt, they're probably earning in that window, which is not anywhere near enough to afford a home. And there's no help for them. Again, those are the people that are most likely to leave. So let's talk about affordable housing myths. Everyone says affordable housing, oh, that's Section 8, right? Cabrini Green, we think of these tall, the tower in the park, Le Corbusier. Any architects in the room, right? It's not. If you go to Irvine and you drive around, I guarantee you, you will not be able to tell what is an Irvine Company luxury apartment building versus what is an apartment building that was built by the Irvine Community Land Trust or by Jamboree or by National Core or by Related, right? There's all these companies that are doing affordable housing. You can't tell the difference. They're professionally managed, they have groundskeepers, they have security guards, they have leasing offices. It just functions just like a regular apartment building. There's nothing to be afraid of in a regular low-income apartment, development. So they're not, definitely not in Orange County. So a lot of times, I'm gonna be honest with you, your all's racism in this Southern Orange County was on full display in February at the Mission Viejo City Council meeting, where they said, we don't want those people, and they're gonna bring crime. And, people made references to other races that were non-white. It was like ugly. It was really ugly. And the thing that really killed me, and I'm gonna probably earn myself some unpopular points for saying this, a lot of the people who got up there and made comments about not making room for others were themselves immigrants. You could hear in the voice that that was not a native English speaker, that that person had come from elsewhere, and they had found their American dream, which is great. That's fantastic. Immigration is good for America. And yet, they were asking Wendy Buckham, and it's the lady with the long blonde hair, Trish, and your swimmer guy, Greg, right? All the people, they were saying, don't build those. Don't let those people come here. And this was for a project that wasn't even 100% affordable. It was just like a percentage of the new development. How has it become okay for people who have come here from someplace else and found their American dream to line up at the podium, probably now they are citizens and voters, and ask the representatives to not allow new housing for other people, whether they're from here or not? That's the world that we're living in. Think on that. Okay, reality. Modern affordable housing is purpose-built, well-managed, and often indistinguishable from market-rate properties. I'm gonna tell you how to distinguish it. There's a house, a logo of a house with an equal sign, which is the symbol that represents fair housing, that they are bound by fair housing law. Technically, we're all bound by fair housing law. If you have an apartment or you have a rental property, you are bound by fair housing law, but they have to kind of put it on display. So, but other than that, but for that symbol of the house with the equal sign in the middle, you can't tell the difference. Okay, another thing I want to point out. So, housing choice voucher, otherwise known as Section 8, that is not a type of housing. That is a coupon that goes to a household, be it a family or an individual, that helps that person pay their rent. And it's literally cash that gets transferred from the housing authority, basically the government, directly to the landlord. It never passes through the resident's bank account. The resident who has that voucher they look at their income every year and they say, okay, 30% of your income is this, and the delta is going to be paid by that coupon, right? So don't ever say that's Section 8 housing, because you don't know. The person living in that affordable apartment, they may be a Section 8 voucher recipient, or they may not, right? There's lots of ways that you can get housing subsidy. It comes in many forms, but only 25% of the people who are eligible, right? Like when we talked about those income limits, only 25% are eligible. So this is not like food stamps, right? We want to talk about the social safety net, the welfare state. If your income is low and you qualify for SNAP, you get SNAP. If your income is low and you qualify for Medicare or Medi-Cal, right, otherwise known as Medicaid nationally, you get it. It's a guaranteed program. There are no guarantees for housing assistance, and we only have enough in subsidies from the government to fund 25% of the people that are eligible. And that has been consistent across the board. And that's why the waiting list for a Section 8 voucher is like 10 years. Yeah. Okay, another common misconception. Sorry. She asked me to talk about who I knew, who you could trust, who's trustworthy. Developers that if they come to your city, you should hug them. You should say, can I roll out the red carpet for you? When is your project going to council? Because I'd like to be there to support you. These are just some of the ones I've worked with in the last 7 years: Jamboree Housing, Related California, Mercy Housing, National Core, CNC. So Jamboree is doing a lot in Costa Mesa. Related California is they're the ones doing the Laguna Beach project that I mentioned. Mercy Housing, if you guys know, in the city of Orange, there's a convent called the Sisters of St. Joseph of Orange of Coron de Ley, I think. They turned their mother house, right, which is like the word for where all the nuns live, into deeply affordable housing for people experiencing homelessness. Like, it's not just below market rate apartments, it's like lots of services for people who have real barriers to maintaining their own housing. And another myth buster, most people who need or are eligible for affordable housing, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not stupid, they're not drug addicts, they're just poor, right? It's an economic problem, it's not a personal problem. There are people that do have barriers, whatever it is, substance abuse, mental health, and those barriers mean that they are probably never going to be self-sufficient. They're probably never going to be able to be educated enough or get a good enough job to really pay the true cost of what it's going to cost to keep them housed. Those are the people that we want to be subsidizing our housing for, not the people making $104,000. The people making $104,000 have enough money, they should be able to afford their own housing. And they could if we would allow it to be built. And then we could use the subsidies for the people that are really experiencing barrier, right? For whatever reason, they're disabled, they're very elderly, they have some problem that is a barrier to them being self-sufficient. But so these are all good companies. National Core is the company that built the Lake Forest project, the Mountain View project in Lake Forest. We're building another one. CNC, they do projects a lot of places. They do a lot in Yorba Linda. For whatever reason, they have a really good relationship with the city of Yorba Linda. So I've gone to support their projects. They've also got a lot of projects in Orange. There's another one called USA Property Group that just did a project in Orange also called the Orion, which is actually a really neat project. They took a big parking lot that had two effectively old, like not nursing homes, but like retirement homes, I guess you could say, like kind of old style, not the new ones, not like the Oakmonts or the Sunrises, right? It's more like 80s style. But they rehabbed it, and then they built two different buildings to add to the housing stock. And so now they are senior apartments. So the whole complex is now for seniors. The existing units got an upgrade, and they built two more buildings to add to the units. And that's a company called USA Property Group. So some of these are nonprofit, some of them are for-profit. They're all eligible for the same low-income housing tax credits, right? Even the ones that are nonprofit, it's a business. The difference is they don't have shareholders necessarily, whether they're private shareholders or publicly traded. I don't know that any of these are publicly traded, actually. Maybe Related is, but I don't think so. You know, Jamboree, Mercy Housing, and National Corps are all nonprofit. Related is a for-profit, and CNC is like a family-owned, but for-profit. I'm agnostic. I don't really care. I think we need the housing, so if you can get it done, I'm gonna support you. And then how you can make a difference. So again, encourage your city to build more affordable housing. And by affordable housing, I don't just mean income restricted, subsidized for low income people. I mean housing types that are affordable to first time home buyers, townhomes, condos, regular apartments, right? I'm using A in a big tent way, right? Higher density, more diverse housing stock than just a single family home on a 6,000 or 10,000 or 20,000 square foot lot. Attend your city council meeting and speak in support of a housing project and all housing during public comment, or send an email of support to your city council or your planning commission. Contact your city council members. You do not have to have a project in front of you to tell your elected officials that this is something you care about. You can send them an email. You can ask them for a meeting. You and a friend can pair up, and I'll go with you. And you can just say to your council member, hey, we know the state is requiring cities to plan for affordable housing. We live here, and we want to support you in whatever your plan or strategy is to get affordable housing. Or ask them what their plan is. How are we going to do this? How can we support you, elected official? You don't have to have a project before you. If you want to know about upcoming projects, we have a mailing list. We send out a once monthly newsletter where we highlight upcoming projects and we highlight wins. We call them project wins. We also use that list to download. So if like I have a project on a park, I'll go to my list, I'll download the list for Buena Park residents, and I'll send them an email and I'll say, hey, you're on our list. There's this project coming in your city. This is a date. This is a little bit about the project. So I'm going to council. If you'd like to come, I'll be there. Look for me in my very fashionable shirt. Or here's an email to send if you want, here's some language, some talking points. You can send an email, you can make a comment. That's really helpful. I mean, to be honest, the most important people that they hear from is not me. Might be the person who knows the most in the room, but you're the people they care about because you're the ones who voted on me. If I'm not your jam, there are other organizations that do similar work. Welcoming Neighbors Home out of the Tapestry Church, the Kennedy Commission, Housing is a Human Right OC. Housing is a Human Right has a very specific focus, which is people experiencing homelessness. And the Kennedy Commission has a very specific focus. It's ELI, extremely low income, and very low income families. And predominantly the folks that they organize with are from the Latino community. I think that's more about leadership than, because that's where their leader is from that community. So it's not like they only serve that community, but if you are a person of Latino background and you want to be involved in a Latino serving organization, they're a great organization. And then Welcoming Neighbors Home, I think just does all affordable. Like they were pretty wide spectrum. We do all affordable all the way up to first-time home buyer, what I call first-time home buyer product, which is townhomes or flats or apartment buildings. And if we're not going to get you to the mic and we can't get you to send an email, hopefully you can at least talk to your neighbors when you hear somebody say something racist. I hope you're countering that. I hope you're saying something like, hey, I don't agree with that, or please don't say that in my presence. If that's the only thing you can get out, that's better than saying nothing. I hope that you'll start to think about being anti-housing like being anti-seatbelt. What dummy would say, I'm gonna encourage my neighbors not to wear their seatbelt, right? I want it to be as uncool to be a NIMBY as it is to be an advocate for drunk driving. If you're taking your neighbor's keys and encouraging your kids to put their seatbelt on when they leave, Thanksgiving dinner, I want you to be somebody that doesn't say, not in my backyard.
So I'm gonna stop there.
Okay, we have a question, and I'm gonna wait for the people to line up, but I have a question. Given you made a really good point about, folks in the room staying in place. So we have this plan that we're working on and is very difficult. What is the next plan when all of the baby boomers have now left their house, they're gone? I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And,
People die.
you know,
It
they're no longer around.
Yeah.
Is there not going to be a glut of housing?
So the baby boomer generation is really big, right? 46 to 64. I think a lot of them are going to need to chew through their equity to pay for their own care. How many of you that are over 60 have long-term care insurance? Okay, a third. The rest of you are counting on your home equity, unless you want to live with your kids. So could there be a massive wealth transfer? It's possible. But do I think it's going to be, you know, first of all, the generation is really big. So it's going to happen in dribs and drabs. It's not going to happen in, yeah. I mean, but here's the thing. You guys are going to sell your house for $2 million. Who's going to buy it? Who has that money? Right? So I think it remains to be seen. I think the jury's still out.
Okay, so I live in Laguna Hills.
Okay.
Laguna Hills Mall project, it's been 12 years sitting empty.
Yes.
It's looking pretty good what they've decided, but at what point do those trusted developers that you were talking about, at what point do they come into the process and who chooses them? Because
right. Oh,
they own the land, they've waited.
Merlone Geyer owns the land in this case. I happen to know this project. So the way that Laguna Hills Mall is being developed, originally Merlone Geyer was going to include those units inside of their own development. The cost has gone up so much that they can't afford to include it. So what they're going to do is they're going to prepare a pad. That's what they call it. They're going to put in the majority of the infrastructure needed, and they're going to prepare this pad. And then an affordable housing developer will come in, get tax credits, and build a 100% affordable apartment building within the larger development.
So they've already outlined, oh, this is going to be affordable right here. But so what you're saying is, what I'm asking is, can we go to our city and say, hey, we want to have these builders in here, or do they have to go by what the plan says, which is only like 20 houses right here is affordable housing?
My understanding, and I'm not, it's been a minute since I've talked to Merlone Geyer, but my understanding is that they're going to prepare the pad, and then the city is going to handle finding the affordable housing developer.
So we can do
it's
something.
the city. Yeah, it's going to be the city's choice, is my understanding. Unless the city said to Merlone Geyer, you do it, and then it's Merlone Geyer's decision. But the way I've seen it done, if the developer doesn't come in with a partner, so this is kind of the new way that developers are doing this. So Shop-Off has had, this will be their third project in Buena Park, where they have a big piece of property, they do townhomes or duplexes on a good chunk of it, and then they prepare a pad for an affordable housing developer. In the case of the project in Huntington Beach, called now Magnolia Coast, they got National Core to come on board early in the process. For the project that's in Fountain Valley, they haven't identified a developer yet, and the reason is because the affordable projects take like 3 times as long, they're 3 times as expensive because of prevailing wage. Yes, unions are not always a good thing. I hate to say it, but it's true. So it could be that in the case of the project in Huntington Beach, Shop-Off chose the developer. In the case with Fountain Valley, I think it'll probably be the city. I think Shop-Off will sell to whoever prepares the pad, but it may be the city that ends up. So I would just go talk to Jennifer Love and just say, hey, we're interested in the process, you know? What are your criteria, right? But any of these are reputable, right? None of them are gonna like.
I was just wondering, when did they come in the process?
Ask Jennifer, because I don't have the skinny on that at this moment.
I'm going to say a dirty word for the
that comes from affordable housing,
Okay.
CEQA.
Oh, haha, California Environmental Quality. Well.
Now, like, just before I
Yeah,
finish.
do you know about AB 130?
I want to tell you that what I'd like to hear from you is how do you preserve CEQA in its original intent and then advocate for more housing?
So AB 130 took effect July 1 of 2025. There is no more CEQA for infill development. It just doesn't exist anymore. Projects are not required to go through CEQA, and most of the development in Orange County, I mean, we've got a little bit out kind of like Coto de Caza, Ladera Ranch area, that's greenfield, but most of the projects I work on are infill, and as of almost a year ago, there's no more CEQA for infill. It's all by right. You don't need CEQA. It's like called a statutory exemption, and that statute is AB 130.
The problem I have is that I live in Silverado and I've been
Oh.
trying to preserve that whole green area out there for 30 years.
Okay.
And when we oppose developers, they scream and cry and whine about CEQA.
You're talking about the Serrano and the Canyon?
Yeah.
I wrote a
Well, that's
one.
the one for now, but they're not even doing any affordable housing in that
That-
project.
Exactly, because it's been 50 years. 50 years. That project was proposed in the 80s.
Yeah, but it
I was
is
peeing in my
violating
pants
the
about
original intent of CEQA.
California Environmental Quality Act. Silverado Canyon is probably different because that is greenfield, right? That's not infill.
Now, I keep hearing that too, and they still build there.
Yeah.
So
You might just have to agree to disagree.
what I'm
on that
asking
one.
you is if you, as a person who is an advocate for affordable housing,
Yes,
and more housing,
yes.
would you please illustrate the importance of not building in greenfield areas?
No,
People-
I will not do that because I don't
Okay.
believe that.
Okay, well, the problem is you're gonna end up with an Orange County that looks like LA County, and no parks, and no green space, and no place to hike, and no place to view the flowers, and no place, that whole area that is over by Laguna Beach would have been developed. All of the area that is over around San Diego Canyon Road, that's gonna get developed. And if that's okay with you, then I'm just gonna say plain flat out, I disagree with you.
That's fine, you can disagree. That's the question. Do we agree? The answer is unfortunately not.
Could you please speak to rezoning existing commercial properties, places that have been up for lease for a long time? And you touched on that a little bit with regard to the senior home where they renovated and
With a
updated.
parking lot. So there were two laws that were passed, I think it was 2023, AB 2011 and SB 6. And that was another one of those by right housing laws that I talked about right there. And the law from Buffy Wicks, who's an assemblywoman, she's chair of the housing committee for the assembly. She put forward AB 2011 and it says that any parcel that is zoned commercial can be developed into affordable housing, can be developed into housing if it includes a percentage of affordable. And it can override the local zoning. So it basically saves the developer from having to go petition the city for a zone change and a map change, which is a lot of time and money. If the developer wants to use that, they can pair it with density bonus law to add more affordability to that commercial use. The question of why does it happen or why does it not happen is all about who has control of the land. So the landowner really is the person who decides. Do they want to redevelop their property? Do they want to leave it as it is? A lot of times the reason that they don't move to make a change in its use is because they're paying $900 a year in property taxes and they're getting some paltry, piddly little rent that's enough for them. There's no motivation. By virtue of the fact that Prop 13 has arrested property taxes, there is no incentive to make that land economically productive. So when we talked about split the roll, right, splitting the property rolls, that's why I wanted, was like Prop 15, I think, a couple of years ago. I voted to split the roll. That residential property, keep your Prop 13, I get it. I can't afford my house if they decide they're gonna charge me 1% of my home. But for commercial property, there's no reason we shouldn't make that economically viable.
Okay, one more question here.
I'll stay if people have more questions.
What do you think of van life next to co-office space? Because
What's a co-op? Co-op?
co-office, like co-working. For example, David Min's office and Katie Porter's office is in 7 Co next to UCI,
Okay.
and that's co-working space. And
Okay.
I rented there and met
Like a
Katie.
you rented a co-working space?
Yeah, and
Okay.
I talked to Katie Porter, and I said back before she was elected,
Oh, that's
you
an
know,
interesting
if you
idea.
want to negotiate for what you want, you got to be able to walk away from the table, which means California needs to secede to Canada. And she
Wow.
like, really like,
But, so you're
What?
saying though, like, what would it look like to allow people to live in a tricked out van
right,
in the parking lot of a co-working space?
right,
So the pushback you're gonna get from that is the same pushback that community colleges gave when one of the assembly members had this great idea to allow the students to live in their cars, and the community college should provide, you know, showers and bathrooms, which they already have, because they have sports complexes, and a security guard, right? They don't want the liability. It's really gonna come down to liability, and because co-working spaces weren't built with bathrooms and all the infrastructure you need, it's probably gonna not be real popular.
Okay, so Elizabeth will stay for more questions, but we have to be out of here,
Okay.
given our rent at 9
All
o'clock.
right.
So if you see any papers by you, please take them, and please take all of your belongings. And let's hear a good round of applause for Elizabeth. A lot to think about. Thank you very much.
So you are an urban planner, so I have that question.